Hey guys, so it's Jacoya of Jacoya Gems. Thank you so much for once again coming back to my channel. Now, if you could do me a favor, pause the video, like, go ahead and leave a comment to support, sharing your social media platforms, and above all else, subscribe for me. So I am back once again with another video. Now, I was trying to wait until I could get back on the computer with better camera quality. However, there are just some things that need to be talked about on today. So I shared a post on my Instagram. If you guys are not following me on IG, go ahead. It's Tierra, TIERRA underscore holiday with two L's. So today I posted just a brief snippet of one of my other videos, which I will link down below in the description about the time that I got my body done. And I went into the sexualization of the African woman and the diaspora. I began to talk about the sexualization of us since we were born. So that's something that I want to delve into just a little bit more on today. So I want to let it be made known and let it be made clear that one thing that I really reach for is unbiased opinions, unbiased dialogue. I love to be able to look at things and to discuss things from all viewpoints and perspectives. I can understand how someone feels a certain way, but that does not mean that I agree with them. And I can wholeheartedly agree with someone, but still discuss an opposing view because it's all about holistic learning here. At least that's how I view things. So, with that being said, let's talk about the westernized concept of the Black woman and her sexuality and her sexual nature being deemed as what causes her to be valuable versus an Eastern concept of what causes the African woman to be revered and to be valued. So, the term is being thrown around at a disproportionate rate of high value. And so what a high value man or a high value woman is, according to Western concepts, is based up on their degree. Well, I'm speaking for men, based up on their degrees, based up on how much money they make, based upon what it is that they can provide, what it is that they drive, the different realms and sectors that they're able to navigate in, as well as the different type of women that they are able to court, to date, and to marry. Now, the bar seems to move around a lot when it comes to the high value dynamics of a woman, because Black men say that a Black woman degree does not matter to them, that he's focused on how well she raises his kids, how good of shape she is in, how agreeable she is. So the value of a Black woman, according to men, is basically based off of her level of submission and servitude, and her money doesn't make a difference. You have instances, the late Kevin Samuels, he would have women come on his platform, and I did notice a difference in the women based off of normally their physicality, or it could be a combination of their tax bracket mixed with the pleasantry of their physicality. It is believed by many women that once they make a certain amount of money and they have reached a certain degree status, then the equal to them is that man who makes a certain amount of money and that degree status. And on paper, I mean, it seems to be logically so. However, what we are learning as women is that men tell us that they are more, even though we kind of knew this, for some men, that they are going basically for what is aesthetically pleasing to the eye. They are not worried about how much money you make. They are not worried about your degrees. They are worried about if you can give them children, if you are still going to look appeasing to them for them to mate with you after you have said children. and things of that nature. I've even heard just recently on the Daily Wrap Up Crew podcast. I'm gonna link that down below too. I have to find which episode it is, but I'm gonna link that down below. It was said by one of the gentlemen that modern day Black women don't cook and they don't clean. So the least that she can do is to have intercourse with him. My question to the Black men in the comment section, was if a woman isn't cooking and a woman isn't cleaning, then why would you give your body to a woman like that? Where's your standard as a Black man? So we see that there's even some discrepancies about what a woman holds as high value, because we've been told that as a woman you have to work hard, especially as a Black woman, you have to work twice as hard. The Black community at large is the number one consumer. The Black woman right now is the highest degree and the highest level of entrepreneurship. So now they're playing the financial game when it comes to making sure that we are on an equal playing field. Excuse me, on an equal playing field with our counterparts, our Black men. Just to be told that that doesn't matter, because a lot of times, um, well, sometimes I will say from what I've seen on the internet, and even some in personal life, some women feel as if when they get to a certain status, then they're end all to be all, and they no longer have to work on their personality. They no longer have to work on their spirituality. They don't have to be soft because now they're leading with these masculine dynamics. So what I really, really want to talk about is that in this Western construct, you have African men saying that, and when I say African men, I'm talking about Black men in America and the diaspora, West African by origin, well, East African by origin, West African by migration, and then whatever it is that we are called right now due to the different captivities that we've gone under. You have some Black men who spew the rhetoric that a woman's value goes down as she ages. And to that, I say to Black men, and to some Black women who agree with this rhetoric, it depends on how you're holding the value of the Black woman. Now, when you look from a childbearing age standpoint, yes, it is definitely healthier. I am an advocate for be pregnant by 29 and done by 30. I'm also an advocate for courting. I'm an advocate from leaving your parents' house and going into the house of your husband and of your wife. I'm an advocate for proper courtship and for younger marriages so that you don't experience the whole stages, so that you don't experience not being covered by your father and groomed by your mother, so that you don't have to, like, what's really out here in this world. You can have fun without sowing your royal oats as a man, and without giving access to your garden as a woman. I'm all about correcting decisions that I decided to make so that women coming after me, young girls coming after me, won't do the same thing. That's just me personally. So when you're looking at a childbearing age, of course, in between the ages of early 20s to late 20s, that's the best time. Beyond that, the woman increases in her value. The people increase in their value. And of course, we all have peaks. We all have highs. We all have lows when it comes to the age dynamic and things of that nature. But when we look at scientifically speaking, a lot of scientists, a lot of psychologists believe that the frontal cortex of the brain, well, originally they said it wasn't finished developing until around the age of 25. But some new studies are showing that they believe that this doesn't even happen until the 30s, into the 40s. When you are at a certain age in your early 20s, mid 20s, there are just certain things that you don't know. There are certain things that you don't know about yourself. There are certain things you don't know about life. There are certain things that you don't know about the opposite sex. If you see women that are still in their 30s and then their 40s, still trying to figure it out, a lot of times it's because they have shunned the voices of the older women. Now we can get into it when we talk about, some matriarchs being bitter, some matriarchs being anti-man, some matriarchs, building up competition. We'll talk about that at a later date. But it's shunning the voice of our elder women and our elder men, but we're speaking of women, is what leaves us to the society that we have today. A lot of men complain about how women are just so easily accessible, how they twerk everywhere, how they lead with their money, how they walk around with their nose in the air, and how you have women that's of a certain physicality, fives and below, or weighing a certain amount, and they think that they're more entitled than a beautiful female who may not have as much or may work at McDonald's. And then you have men who say that they'll rather take somebody like that because, you have all of these dynamics. But when we get back to the core of it, the aged woman has been removed from the dynamic of this world, of this African society. And that's one of our biggest problems and one of our biggest downfalls now. When we look at the Near Eastern biblical standpoint of the sons of Solomon after he passed away, the sons Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and we know that the children of Israel, majority of their kings were wicked. This is when the tribes, the monarchies, and they began to split, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. And then you have one son who sought after the advice of his peers, and his peers led him wicked. I'll quote my father in this video. Growing up, my father would say, why would dumb, you, child A, B, C, go to stupid, friend D, E, F, for advice when neither of you guys know anything? Now I know we're adults, right? I'm about to be 36 years old on June 18th. Go ahead and support. Drop something in the Cash App. I go to friends, to cousins for advice. However, majority of the people that I go to are older than me. And I'm still gonna go talk to my daddy. I would still go talk to my mother. Those would be before my mother passed away. Those were always my first phone calls. I'll go downstairs to talk to my grandmother. I'll call my grandmother. When my grandfather was alive, I would go sit at his feet, because this is what wisdom does. Wisdom realizes that the peak of a woman is not based upon her womb, but that a woman actually matures after that her womb has been used to fertilize the earth with seed. There is something about an aged woman over in West Africa. The aged woman is called the Queen Mother. She's the Nana. She's an Ima in Hebrew. Wisdom, which is personified when we look over in the book of Proverbs. When we look at all these biblical accounts of these women of wisdom. A man in the comments today said that men age like fine wine and women age like milk. Then there's this falsehood out that I see a lot of men spewing, that the reason that women age like wine is because you guys have a higher sex drive than women, and women laugh at this. Scientists laugh at this. And so I just want to give you guys some information. This is from our grown, married, and engaged covenant seeking folk, and those of you that are taking a ritualistic bath, that's y'all decide to communicate. If we look over into science, a man reaches his sexual peak in his 30s. A woman reaches her sexual peak in her 20s, and again in her 40s. So the math ain't mathing. Y'all concepts ain't adding up. When we look at wisdom, and when we begin to add into all of those things, something about a wise woman has foresight. Something about a wise woman knows that, you know what, maybe in my 20s, I would have handled things this way, but in my 30s, I'm gonna move like this. In my 40s, I'm gonna do this way. In my 50s, I'm going to. And so I ask you on today, Black man, How are you valuing your woman? If you only value your woman based on her physicality and based off of that which she can push out and that which she can consume to produce that which she pushes out, then I dare say that there is something wrong with your perception, that there's something wrong with how you view yourself, because if we be a reflection of you, then how can you age in grace and age in truth and age as wine and we be spoiled as milk? I don't know, honey and curds were a delicacy in the Near East, but I don't know, that may be a little bit too deep. So if a man be infrastructure and if man be head, and if man now no longer identifies the woman for her original purpose, does that not lead us back to the fall in the garden of Adam and Eve? When he no longer called her Eve, but he called her woman, who you gave me. So there is clearly some type of discrepancy between man and woman. When a man, as a Black man, you're now viewing the Black woman just as the slave master did. So when you tell a Black woman that she's only worth something based off of how small her waist is and how flat her stomach is and how big her behind is and how many kids that she can give you. And after that age, she no longer holds any value to you. And this will go into so many more topics, because this issue right here perpetuates so many cycles as to why Black women feel sexualized, even in their relationships, even in their marriages. Why so many Black women are cheated on while they're pregnant, stressed out while they're pregnant, dying in childbirth. Because you now no longer recognize that which attracted this Black man. And instead of him pouring into you and doting onto you, oh, now you don't have time for him because you're breastfeeding. Now you don't have time for him because you're doing what a woman does, which is run her home. And so then he goes out and looks for something else, because in his mind, you Black woman are only as good as what your womb can produce. And while your womb is producing and while your womb is incubating, he goes out and look for another because of his jaundiced perception of you. Every woman that I know, every woman that I'm in contact with right about now, over their 30s, 35 to 40 something, are going through this awakening process where we're trying to figure this thing out, where we're trying to grow and we're trying to get better, so that those young women that the men our ages are going after will be able to see, will be able to hear, will be able to discern, will be able to know that although your womb is necessary to the upbringing of this nation, it is not the end all to the be all of who you are, because if that be the truth, many of our women in our Hebraic African Bible would not have suffered from infertility, which, yes, is a generational curse, but the Most High used them. He opened wombs, but he used them mightily as testaments of wisdom, as testaments of anointing, of testaments of perseverance, of testament that a woman works with what it is that she has. So if we shift our Western mindset to Eastern mindset, we'll begin to value one another. So with that being said, you Black woman, you are beyond what it is that you have been called. So no longer see yourself in a Western standpoint, but remember that you are Queen Mother. So with that being said, it's been Jacoya of Jacoya Gems. Go ahead, like the video, comment, subscribe, share on your social media platforms. Thank you once again for viewing. Signing off.